look for TIO or the Test Inspection and Observation Program in construction, and some more helpful inspection tips. If you haven't done so already, go ahead and download the presentation, which is provided for you in PDF format, and it's located under the handout section of the go-to toolbox there on the right-hand side of your screen. So if you haven't done so already, please do that, and we will go ahead and proceed with the presentation. You are here for about a 10-minute presentation and about a 15 to 20-minute question and answer session at the end of the presentation. So if you have a question, feel free to raise your hand by clicking the hand icon next to your name, or you can go ahead and type your question into the go-to box as well, the question box, and we will go ahead and monitor that and monitor those who have raised a hand and want to have a conversation. You will all be muted during the presentation, so be sure to type your question or raise your hand. If you do have questions, please keep your questions generic and specific to this presentation. If you have specific questions about a specific topic, feel free to email our inspection services unit at oshpd.fddisu@oshpod.ca.gov. Again, that's oshpd.fddisu@oshpod.ca.gov. If you do experience transmission difficulties, feel free to log off, log back in using the same login information that the go-to software sent you, and we will be here waiting for you with our presentation. So today for presenters, we do have Bert Hurlbut. He is retired and is part of the Hospital Building Safety Board and has years of firsthand experience in healthcare facility construction. And also in the background, we'll have the inspection services team answering some of the more generic questions about the construction and TIO or whatever we can answer for you. So Bert, if you're there, the presentation's all yours.
Okay, I'm ready to go. My name is Bert Hurlbut, and what I'm going to talk about today is inspecting to pass. I'll let those words hang for a minute or so. Inspecting to pass. And I'm sure some of you have probably passed out already just hearing those words. So hang with us, and I want to go through a program that can be very beneficial to any project. So a little bit on myself, that I've been 42 years in hospital construction, worked for an architect's office, general contractor, did CM work, and then in an owner's position. I've only built 6 hospitals, so my resume is pretty short. And of those 6, 2 of them, one was UCLA, one was Stanford. It took half my entire career to finish those 2. So I do have some experience. So I got 42 years of experience of working on building stuff. I've only got 1 year of experience in retirement, but I got to tell you, retirement's a lot better than working. So get there soon. Let's go through. Well, first off, let's go through what the inspections required to be done. So we get the TIO, the Test and Inspection Observation Program, and the administrative code tells you how to develop that. We're not here to work on the TIO, but know that that's the thing that you're going to be required to get signed off to get your occupancy at the end of the day. Next slide, please. You as inspectors have a lot of duties, and those are outlined in the administrative code as well. We're not going to talk about those today. We're going to move to the next slide. And then the administrative code talks about what's required for documentation, how to get these things closed. A TIO is a living document. It can expand, it can contract during the progress, and it's all done with OSHPA's concurrence. But we're not here to talk about that. Let's move on to the next one. What we're here to talk about is the approach on how to inspect to pass. I want to talk about 3 phases of inspection. I call it the pre-install phase, and that's where the most work has got to take place. You do your work up front, the end of the job is simple. Then you have the actual inspection, which should be the easiest. And then at the end of it, after your inspections on a daily basis, you should post metrics on how well inspections are doing. What we're trying to achieve is a very high percentage of inspection requests, or IRs, that get closed on the first review. And every project is going to be different, but I would say the minimum that you should strive for would be 90% first-time closures. If you can achieve that, your job is going to click along nicely. So to do that, you've got to be familiar with the documents. You've got a set of approved drawings. You've got a set of approved specifications. Read them carefully. Make sure the two of them are in compliance with each other. I can guarantee you, if you go through your specifications carefully, you're going to find many parts of them that are cut and paste from other jobs, and some of them are probably going to be cut and paste from non-Title 24 jobs. That doesn't work. So finding that before work starts is a lot easier to get fixed than after work starts. So know your documents inside and out. Know your submittals. I know that you can't review and inspect from submittals, but the submittal is going to tell you how a particular component, whether it's exterior wall, HVAC ducting, electrical panel boards, etc., how it all works together and how that suffices or complies with the actual approved documents. So know your submittals. Know your schedule. When is this stuff going to come up? Do you have enough special inspectors on board? Do you have enough IORs on board to make sure that you can make all these inspections? Then you'll have a pre-construction meeting. So a pre-con meeting might be very early in the job for kicking off the entire job. It once again is outlined in the administrative code what to do. Or you might have increments of large jobs that start partway through the project, or you might have a large phase of the job, maybe steel or concrete, that are starting. You'll have a pre-con meeting. Chances are you won't actually start that installation for a few months because you're waiting for fabricated materials off-site to be inspected and shipped to the job site for installation. So I recommend that you have a pre-install meeting or pre-installation meeting just prior to when the installation starts. At that time, the actual tradesmen, the superintendents, the foremen, etc., should be at the meeting. Talk about the rules of the road, how inspections are going to be asked, what software is going to be used, et cetera, et cetera. Learn who these people are. If everyone's friendly, it's going to be a lot easier to get to the end line in this game. So now, the other thing you got to do is mock-ups. It's great if your specifications call for a specific set of mock-ups. If they don't, it's still a good policy to ask for some mock-ups. I've seen on jobs that we might have an interior wall mock-up, just a partition mock-up that might be 30, 40 feet, 50 feet long, that's got every penetration imaginable for electrical, low voltage, cable trays, et cetera, et cetera. We'll hang head wall units, hang everything on it. But once you do that, every piece of work is got to be called for inspection. Get an IR established, go out in the field, review it, establish a punch list if it's deficient, get it re-reviewed and closed, and that's your record of what an approved installation shall be. So a lot of work there, but it does work. So now you've done all your upfront work. You've got your schedules. You've been notified. You're getting ready for the actual inspections themselves. Well, what you got to do, you got to know what's being installed out in the field. We used to call it WANs, or WAN, for a wide area notice as to where electrical was being installed, where drywall was going in place, ceilings, etc., so that you, the inspector, know exactly what areas of the project are being worked at any one time. You've got continual observations. You should be walking the floor a couple hours every day, looking at work before it's called for inspection. Point out any deficiencies you might see. So there's no benefit in waiting for an entire installation to be completed, an inspection request established, and then going out and failing it because it was something that you could have prevented earlier. That's just losing time, losing money. So let's see. So once you get out to the field, you've done your observations, you've got your mock-ups, you're pointed to everything, everything's right. You actually get your IR. That's probably going to be the easiest thing of this entire process. Going out in the field, looking in a room, seeing your either screw placement or duct hang or sealants or whatever, and you pass them. You could have just a few of these a day. You might have 100 of these things a day. So, but every one is going to get passed before that project can be signed off at the end of the day. So now you've done your actual observations, your reviews, you've approved things. Let's go to the next slide real quick. You've got to keep records on all these. So there's a lot of software out there right now that will keep track of all your inspection requests. So you've got meticulous records, and then you've got to develop your metrics. That's the most important part. Do them by subcontractor. Easy to slice and dice when they're submitted by each of the subs, and have a chart where everyone can see it and show what's the trend, what's the minimum. Draw a line at maybe 90%, 92, 95%, whatever you want. You want everyone to be above that on their first time closures. So you've got to display that, show it, have everyone look at it. And I can guarantee you, if someone has got a big red meatball next to their name because they only got a 30% closure percentage, they're going to pull that up. They're not going to want to be looking deficient in front of their peers. And what are first off, what I do have to emphasize is that construction is a team sport. It's not an individual person-on-person sport. It's a team sport. So you as the inspector have got to have the ability to inspect a pass, but you've got to be supported by the owner who will establish rules for the general contractor. The general contractor's got to have a GC or got to have a QC staff that's right. And every one of the subs has got to have a QC staff that can present this stuff. If you get all these pieces into place, your inspection closure rates are going to be fabulous. What are the benefits of this? Schedule adherence. As a general contractor, if you've got good confidence that you can start the next trade because you're going to get a lot of things signed off by an existing trade, you can bring another sub on and he's going to have confidence that he can come on hard and start work very fast. Higher quality of work. Do work once. Don't do 3, 4, 5 times. The more times you do it, the worse that installation becomes. Minimize reinspection. If you're reinspecting work, chances are you might be up in an attic, crawling on top of ductwork. Not a pleasant place to be. Things are going to get broken. It's not the best place to be. As an owner, if jobs finish pretty close to the original schedule, disputes that go along with the job, they typically just go away if people have made their general condition quotes in their bids, etc. So a very important part for the owner. One part that is just so darn important is that OSHPD will have confidence in that this particular project delivery team is in control of that project. And that is just invaluable when you come to the end of the job. You're looking for all these TIO line items to be signed off. And if the compliance officer just knows that you've been in control of this and everyone's working to the same goal, it's going to be a fun time at the end of the job. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Caesar. And we're going to start questions and answers. And the only thing I ask for is that if you got any tough questions, ask them with Caesar. If you got any softballs, throw them my way, okay? Let's get started.
I appreciate that, Bert. So I want to go ahead and remind everyone that if you do have a question or you want to add maybe some of your own personal experiences, what you've seen out in the field, go ahead and raise your hand by clicking that hand icon next to your name. We do want to hear from you. We do want to have some dialogue. The presentation is scheduled to end at 1:30, so we'll take as many questions as we can. So Mike, I do see you have your hand up, so I'm going to go ahead and unmute you if you can unmute yourself, Mike.
Yes, and hopefully you can hear me now. And thanks for the opportunity to ask a question. So in this presentation, submittals was mentioned, and I think there's a slide dedicated to that. And my question is, based upon a lot of recent conversation about IORs having access to project documents, in the regulation, does it require the IOR have access to submittals?
I'm sorry, is that a question you're asking?
Yes, in the regulation and the administrative code, is there specific language that requires the IOR to have access to submittals?
I don't know. I'll refer that back to Cesar. And if you can help us with that, I would say if there isn't anything, as the inspector, he sure should be looking at submittals. And if he isn't, it's not right.
Yeah, so I'll piggyback onto what Bert says. What the regulation says is that the IOR shall have access to the approved construction document. So, what I'd like to focus in on that term, approved construction documents. A submittal may or may not be approved and may or may not be a part of the actual construction document. So, if it is part of the approved construction documents, again approved by the office or OSHPD, then the IOR shall have access to those. And the conversation can go in deeper as to what the IOR should have in that IOR's part of the field records. But so to answer your question, if the submittal is part of the approved construction document, then yes, access should be given to that. But if it's only a submittal or an RFI, for example, then it's something that the IOR should not be inspecting off of. I mean, I don't know if Joe or anyone else heard.
I can add to that. Or Monica, did you want to say something?
The only things that I would like to add, thank you, Joe, thank you, Cesar, and hi, everybody. It's basically the submittal, if it's not part of the approved construction document, is a tool for the inspector and for everybody to understand the concept, how certain things will be done. But keep in mind, of course, submittals are based on approved documents, so they cannot go totally off of track of whatever process is going to be installed. So it's basically to allow the inspector to increase his knowledge. So, and the things that basically Berto was explaining on the prior slides was about the inspector to ask to the DPOR, to ask to the contractor, to minimize all the wandering and go faster in the comprehension and move forward for the actual inspection. That's all.
Yeah, and I'll just add to some of what was said there. Also, Mike, thanks for the question. I don't believe there's anything in the code that says shop drawing submittals. That type of submittal that needs to be on site. However, that said, as Cesar mentioned, it could be a deferred submittal, right? In which case, it's part of the construction documents that would need to be on site. But let's stay in the realm of, say, shop drawing submittal for sake of discussion. Let's zero out on a piece of equipment that has a special seismic certification, just a OSP. All right, let's just use that as an example. Would the IOR need to have that on site? If it's nothing more than a submittal, then I would argue it's not required to. However, reasonable diligence needs to be exercised to obtain personal knowledge. So there is an argument to be made that reasonable diligence would require an IOR to look at what is flowing on the project, whether the document is part of the construction documents or whether it's something supplemental, to understand and have that personal knowledge that the inspector would need to have. It may just be a best practice that he could, that would be in the benefit of the project.
Those are terrific answers. Thank you for that and the clarifications. If I can just add one comment on the metrics, I was very happy to see that topic in the presentation and the narrative. Identifying the value with metrics, because there are a lot of folks, boots on the ground folks, that I think don't have the appreciation of and understand the value that those metrics can bring.
Just a quick note on metrics. This is Bert again. I was at Stanford for the last 9 years building their hospital, a little over 800,000 square feet. We had over 60,000 inspection requests on that particular project. And I think we achieved about 98.5% of them closed on first-time requests. unbelievable. I mean, it takes work from everybody. Everybody works hard, but it works.
Great teamwork.
I have a question in that regard, Bert, if I can just throw one out before you go to the next question is.
Who's this? Who's this talking?
This is Joe. This is Joe Labrie. Are you there?
Yep.
Yeah. My question was regarding quality control. I think what we're observing too in the field is that there are contractors who have quality control plans and follow them to the T and are very meticulous about it. And then there's some who don't even, they just lay, oh, well, we got Oshpod's field staff as our quality control, our IOR is our quality control, which is an absolute mistake. Can you address any of that?
Yes, this is Bert again. If that shows up pretty quickly in the metrics, that if you've got 30 subcontractors that are out in the field and everyone's up in the 90s, and all of a sudden you've got somebody that's down in the 30, 40%, you make sure that his bar is red, and absolute red as can be with a neon light on it. And if he's shameless, maybe he just says, I don't care if I'm red. If he is, you don't need him on the job site. You want somebody that's diligent, and it will be a team player. Peer pressure is pretty substantial on a job site. Nobody wants to be known as, just an underachiever.
Those are great comments. Thank you, Bert. Thank you, Joe, for the question. Peter, I do see you have your hand raised. I'd like to go ahead and call on you, so I'm going to go ahead and unmute you. If you can unmute yourself, Peter, I'd like to hear from you.
Great, thank you, and great presentation. Thank you, Bert. Just a comment, I guess, but the IOR role is difficult. You're in a tough spot between the owner, the contractor, and Oshpod, and trying to keep all sides happy with you. And I think you handed out some great tools here for doing that. And those metrics oftentimes can be used to point out why issues are occurring, and show that you're doing your part to help in a successful pass rate, but maybe somebody's bringing that down, that pass rate down. So an awesome tool. And you brought up schedule. I would say that's something that I see often as an IOR on projects, is that the schedule shows the contractor putting the last screw in the wall on Monday, and on Tuesday they're seeing first patient. And so being willing to speak up in those early construction meetings and explain the time you're going to need to get closeout, and getting the design team to back you up on that, because they're probably the only ones that understand also what goes into that, and getting those final sign-offs from Oshpod and getting your occupancy.
I agree.
That's it. Thank you.
Good comments.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Peter, for raising your hand. I do want to take this time to go ahead and encourage others who are on the call to go ahead and raise your hand and either ask a question or share your experiences and what you've seen out there, maybe what some of the major hurdles, what you're seeing as to your when you have boots on the ground and you're doing the day-to-day inspections and visiting with the construction team. So we do want to point out that that Oshpod is here to help, whether it's your RCO, regional compliance officer, whether it's the compliance officer, fire life safety officer, district structural engineer. Reach out to them. They are a valuable tool for you as you continue through these construction projects. So feel free to reach out, or if you don't want to go and reach out to them, you can always email us, the inspection services team, at oshpod.ftdisu@oshpod.ca.gov. That email address you see there on your screen. I want to go ahead. Yes, sir.
Yeah, this is Joe Labrie again. I got another question for Bert. Bert, thanks again. I appreciate you giving us this insights. But one of the things you said in your presentation was how important it was to win the confidence of the Oshpod field staff. I think everybody on this call probably would benefit from knowing how you did that. What were the ingredients to make the concoction that worked? Because I think there's a lot of folks that maybe don't have clarity in that regard. And since winning the confidence is such a significant part of it, it would sure be great to have some idea from your own experiences.
Well, okay, this is Bert again. A lot of that is just plain behavior. If you have a job site, of which everyone is respectful of everyone else, then it's going to go a long way. It's a team sport. Everyone's got to work together. And let me think. You had another word there, Joe, I missed, and I want to respond to that.
Well, I'm just, as you're thinking about it, it's winning their confidence. I feel like a lot of us have been around this long enough to know that the OSHPD folks, in particular, the field staff, do this every day at every hospital all over the state. So they're pretty sophisticated when it comes to when people are trying to buffalo or pay lip service or not really being completely transparent. But you talked about winning the confidence of field staff who are sophisticated professionals. What's the magic dust that we need to get that?
Well, what I wanted to say was that if you've got a job site that's very respectful and you do have a program to inspect to pass, then people are a lot more friendly. And I've been on other jobs in which a problem pops up in the field and the IOR, calls OSHPD to say, we got a problem. And if he picks the phone up and he says, you're not going to believe what the contractor did this time, you know where that conversation's going. But if you pick the phone up and say, Mr. Compliance Officer, we just had an incident here where something got this and it's manageable, but I just want to inform you, next time you're down here, we'll go over, but you're just very factual about it and just say, we've got it under control and we're going to make it, right. So
what do you say? So what do you say to the guy that says, "Oh, I'm just going to sweep it on the rug. I'm going to hide it. Maybe they won't catch it." What do you have to say to that person?
You got to get rid of them, I guess. I don't know.
Okay.
You don't have a team player there is what it comes down to, and you have to have a team to make this work.
That's a great comment, Bert. So if it's okay with you, Bert, okay with you, Joe, I'd like to go ahead and ask Mickey Fong. He is a regional compliance officer, field RCO, to chime in on this conversation, being that we're talking about teamwork. We're talking about reaching out to the field team for support and question. Mickey, are you there?
Yes, I am. I work with Bert on that big Stanford job. And, Bert, as the owner's representative, he set the standard and the guideline for the project. So every individual or firm has a role in the success or the failure of projects. All projects are eventually going to get done. It's whether or not you as the individual is going to remain on the project. As Bert said, it's a team sport. It is a team effort to get the project done. And how do you get the confidence of the field staff, OSHPD field staff? You need to do your job. When you're doing your job and you do it to the best of your ability, and if you don't know something, just ask questions. And, not everybody can't know everything. So there's always a learning time for each individual. And it's okay if you don't know something, as long as you don't know a process. You can't say, I know they're looking for this to be closed up, but I don't know anything about it. We have a process on hospital construction projects where it's continuous inspection. Continuous inspection isn't constant inspection. Two different terms, two different requirements. Constant inspection is when you're doing concrete placement. You have to be there all the time when they are placing concrete. Continuous inspection is inspecting all through the process of construction. So if they're framing, you're inspecting. You're inspecting the framing members, the type of studs they're putting in, the gauge, the screws. Are they installing in accordance with the installation details? If they aren't, then you need to write up a non-conformance. So that is how you gain the confidence, is when you are going out and you have walking with a fire life safety officer, compliance officer, DSE, you are telling them what you're going to go look at, and you're explaining the things that are done or aren't done, the things that are in compliance or not in compliance, so that way they can gain the confidence that you have personal knowledge that you're required to have on the job. And that gains the confidence that you are doing your job, and they don't have to do your job for you or indicate that you are not doing your job. So our role, we love to just stand back and just observe and not have to write things up. The only thing we like to write up is, we like to write up that everything is good. You're good to go. You have an SC. You have a C of O. That's an easy report to write. Writing up that you do not conform with the approved contract documents or California Administrative Code is not something that we enjoy doing or we want to do. But that's our job. So if we have to do it, we will. So as Bert stated, this is a team effort, and all team members need to be involved and do their part. So you need to do your part and make sure that you as an IOR or contractor, whoever's listening in, you're doing your part. So I hope that answered your questions.
Yeah, thanks, Mickey, for that. And want to go ahead and remind everyone we are 2 minutes past our scheduled time, so you're more than welcome to stay on board and keep listening to the conversation. This is great conversation. I do see one more hand raised from Timothy. So Timothy, I'd like to go ahead and unmute you if you'd like to unmute yourself, Timothy.
Yeah, hi guys. I got a question for you. In this team atmosphere, there's been a few projects that I've come across where the owner or owner's rep is one of the more hesitant / combative people on the team. So much so that they either don't have experience with an OSHPD project or just don't care to believe that the regulations are what they are. What insight or, I guess just what insight might you have to kind of turn the tide, I guess, to have these owners reps or ownership understand that, things are going to have to be built how the code is written, and that's what's going to make the project run smoother and get done on time, as opposed to continually trying to fight it or cut corners or sweep things under the rug, like Joe kind of had said.
I'd like to defer the first answer to Bert. Is that something you can answer?
I'd say I would jump off the roof before I work on a project like that. It's no fun when you've got a team member. And if it's the top team member, your project's not going to go anywhere. You're in trouble. So then, I don't think there's a good answer to this other than leave it alone.
Right. Mickey, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
There's typically always somebody above somebody else. So, it's, we deal with a lot of projects and a lot of people, and it's really comes down to a lot of times to personalities and on how well a project goes or doesn't go. You have a owner representative. It doesn't matter which party it is. It could be a major subcontractor that doesn't want to conform. The owner pays a lot of money to have a design team design a project in conformance with approved contract documents or OSHPD's requirements and code. And to not build it in accordance with that is really a disservice to everybody. That's why we do review and approve plans. So everybody has a plan to follow. if a party doesn't want to follow the plan, then they're going to struggle. The project's going to struggle. So if an owner's representative thinks that they're going to get something done quicker by pushing it through, well, maybe they will on a project here and there, but they're going to end up with problems. Eventually, you end up with a problem with the construction, the performance of equipment, and we're talking about healthcare, delivery of healthcare. We're just a part of the delivery of the healthcare. Nobody wants to cut corners and install a med gas system that is substandard, because people's lives actually depend on what we're constructing. That is a tough situation that you're in, because owners have a lot of authority on the project, but owners' representatives, they have a boss. And, I would probably make your field staff aware of it, so that way it could be pushed up higher up in the, OSHPD level, so we can talk to the owners about, the challenge that they're having on the project. You're not getting them out, you're just really trying to get to compliance on the project, and we are too. We really want to get to compliance on the project and get the project done as quickly as possible. So I hope that helps.
This is Joe Labrie. If I can just add on to that, the one thing I would say is that ISU is always here, and the Inspection Services Unit can come in and constructively assist anybody on this call and anybody out there who has an interest in increasing their improvement or the performance of their projects by making sure the expectations for performance is fully understood. And ISU is here to help if anybody ever wants that also as a mechanism to address what Timothy was describing.
Joe and Mickey, I think that's I think as I've sat in more and more webinars, feel like I can know the group here at ISU a little bit better. And in my path to hopefully become an IOR here shortly, is that understanding to be able to come to ISU, notify field staff. I think that's something that is, I guess, maybe not readily available or not told, even though I'm not so sure that that's the approach you guys are trying to go after. Obviously, you're stating, try and approach a field staff if you think you have this combative member of the team. I think that's, and obviously those are uneven waters to tread because of ownership being the one that's building the project, right? But they still have to be able to get the project done. And like you said, this is a healthcare facility. This is meant to be one of the last places standing to service the entire society, right? That's so. I think that's a good. I appreciate the comments because I think that's. And Bert, I agree. I've actually left the company because of the project that I was on. And the owner, because it was not worth it. It was. I felt like you were. The old adage of, how many times you're going to hit your head against the wall before you realize it hurts.
Right.
So,
And Tim, this is the DAC James Pong with ISU, and I also work in the field, and I have encountered the issue that you have described. And like Nikki say, your first level of interaction is the OSPAC field staff, and contact the field staff. Normally, we will have a meeting with the owner's rep, who is acting as the PM. And if that person is still does not change and want to cut corners of direct work that's not in compliance with the California Building Standard Code, then we will have another meeting with the directors of facility or whatnot, right? There's always somebody above that person. And we have done that in the past. And if required, we will invite the RCO to attend the meeting and resolve the issue. So as an inspector, you should not close your eyes or ears and let the contractor to continue conduct work that's non-conformance, right? We are a team, and QA is very important in our projects.
Yeah, that's great, James. Thank you for adding that. Timothy, we hope that answers your question. So I'm going to go ahead and call on Peter. Peter, I see you have your hand raised. Go ahead and unmute you if you'd like to go ahead and participate. Peter?
Thank you. If you don't mind me adding a little bit of my experience to answer Tim's question. Every company I think is structured different. This is certainly a very common issue on projects. Company I work for has inspectors and inspection managers, and I've been on both sides of that as an IOR and a manager. And I can say I've gone into a lot of situations where I go and I reinforce what an inspector says. Oftentimes I have to get educated by the inspector on what the situation is, and that person knows twice as much about it as I do. But some new person coming in, reinforcing things and explaining that, that working with OSHPD is going to be a lot more beneficial in the long run. I found that it works quite often. And so it may not be an inspection services manager. It may be, with the company you work for, but trying to find that ally that understands OSHPD. And I would say even as a manager, I've had to do that now in working with higher ups in our company, finding that ally that really understands how OSHPD projects work and being able to go to them and get them to reinforce what you're saying to others. That can help. And if you don't have that, then certainly the ISU and your RCOs, if you folks come in and you explain that what the IOR is doing is really trying to help the project, that usually sinks in, and you will experience people that you can't get through to. But if there's a possible way to get through to them, that's it. And that's all.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Peter. Thank you for the input. We're going to go to the last question. The question is typed in, Bert, so I'm going to go ahead and read it out loud, and hopefully maybe you can provide an answer to this. The question reads, what is the lowest construction cost you recommend doing mock-ups for? Or is there a particular type of project that should do a mock-up versus another type of project? And this is from Tabitha.
And the question was, what was the minimum cost? Is that what it was?
Yeah, so there's a kind of a question and then a follow-up question. The question is, what is the lowest construction cost you recommend doing mock-ups for? Or is there a particular type of project that should do a mock-up versus another type of project?
Well, I would first want to get my biggest bang for my buck with mock-ups by mocking up whatever detail it is that happens hundreds and thousands of times, so you got it right up front. If you're only going to be doing a detail once or twice, there's probably not a good percentage in doing a mock-up of something you're only going to do one more time. Just do it right the first time. But if you're doing something over and over and over again, I would have that mocked up. And, the cost should be minimal on these things. The tradesman should be able to put these things together very quickly, and IR established, closed, but the information gleaned from it is invaluable. You always point back to that mock-up and say, I want that. If I can get that, you'll get approvals all day long. You don't give me that, we're not moving.
That's great. Thank you, Bert, for that. So I'm going to go ahead and close this presentation and give you some closing comments. Bert, first and foremost, thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to do the presentation. It was very, very helpful, and I think everyone here on the call or on the presentation found it very useful. So thank you for that.
My pleasure.
And to follow up, if you have any questions that kind of come to you after the presentation, feel free to send those over to oshpod.fddisu at oshpod.ca.gov. Again, that's oshpd.fddisu at oshpod.ca.gov. Up and coming, we have more FBA10s or field brief advice presentations. We're going to go ahead and go over TIO program and how to fill it out, IOR notices, when are they required, and electrical installations, and many, many other presentations. So if you haven't done so already, feel free to subscribe to receive these notifications by going to our website, www.oshpd.ca.gov, going up to the upper right-hand corner, clicking subscribe, and then providing the essential information such as your name, email address, and so on, and then select what it is you want to receive notifications about. So with that being said, Bert, thank you so much. Mickey, thank you for participating. Joe, Inspection Services team, thank you all for joining us. And with that being said, I want to go ahead and thank you for joining us today. And until next time, thank you for doing your part in providing access to safe, quality healthcare environments throughout California. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you.